Christmas lights.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm good. I'm well. I wasn't sure. That's why. I never know
He is the loop running rampant.
Yeah.
We'll just.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Mother Dog.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. How are you today?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? So I'd like to call this December 7th meeting to order for the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission. And we'll start by taking the roll call. And I think we'll just follow the tradition of going around and introducing ourselves. And Mr. Holmes here will make note of your presence. So I'll start. I'm Jim Wallace. I serve on the Salem City Council.
Billy Martin from beautiful Bonnetot County.
David Radford from Roanoke County, Board of Supervisors.
Bill North, Roanoke County Board of Supervisors.
Chuck Unruh, Clifton Forest Town Manager.
Terry Green, Franklin County.
Debbie Loudermilk, Clifton Forest Town Council.
Brad Gross, Mayor of Town of Hickman.
Robert Wood, Rocky Mount Town Manager.
Hunter Holiday, Salem City Council.
Barbara Dirk, representing the city of Roanoke. Dee King, Salem City, resident rep.
Dawn Erdman, Assistant Representative for the City of Roanoke.
Peter Boston, City of Roanoke.
Pete Peters, Benton Town Manager.
Virginia Mullen, Regional Commission.
They're also the Regional Commission.
We will start out there with Ms. Green. We'll go around the outer room, please.
Anne Marie Green with the Council of Community Services.
Lisa Hammond, Allegheny Highlands Chamber of Commerce and Tourism.
Mark Moore, Assistant Town Manager, Town of Rocky Mount. I'm Danny Bernard, the Town of Rocky Mount.
Diana Everly Robinson, Roanoke.
Steve Clinton, Bonnetot County Board of Supervisors.
Brian Hill with the Regional Commission.
Gabriel E. Grimes with the Regional Commission.
Elizabeth Elmore with the Regional.
And thank you. Do we have anyone joining us remote today? Thank you, Mr. Holmes. So we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the approval of the consent agenda items. We'll note one change that Mr. Bird with the NRV Passenger Rail Authority cannot be with us today, so that will be rescheduled for a future time. So we have the approval of the agenda, the minutes from the September 28th meeting, and the financial reports ending October 31. So if we could have a voice vote to approve the consent agenda, that would be appreciated.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. And that carries for today. So today we're live streaming our meeting on the Commission's Facebook page, part of our ongoing effort to improve public awareness of the important work undertaken by the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission. We want to remind everyone watching that they are always welcome to address the commission via one of our public hearings or in person during the public comment period at each meeting. The first thing I'd like to do is just acknowledge the service of Mr. North here for the past year. So we're grateful for your past service, Mr. North, and you did say that I could lean on you if I had to, so make sure you're standing firm and tall.
I'll do that, Mr. President, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge Ms. Mullen. For those of you that were able to attend the holiday party out at Crooked Run, it was a great event. I think everyone enjoyed it, and we appreciate all the hard work you did to organize that.
Very nice.
But anyhow, the Regional Commission, like to let you all know, is the recipient of $100,000 from the Appalachian Regional Commission through its Ready Appalachian initiative. This program, via funding from the Inflation Reduction Act, provides capacity building resources for the ARC's partner local development districts, of which the commission is one. With this grant, the commission will build a bench of professional grant writing staff, which is our communities, which consist of Alleghany, Botetourt, Craig, Covington, and Clifton Forge, can access to fully pay for development and submission of federal grants. The commission is releasing a request for qualifications to begin creating the bench and hopes to fully launch the program after the new year. In some other news, the regional commission staff recently attended the Blue Ridge Rising Two-State Summit in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. This initiative of the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation was the first time that representatives from all 29 counties along the parkway in both North Carolina and Virginia were in one place. Blue Ridge Rising is a strategic economic development initiative focused on the Parkway's gateway communities in our region, Franklin, Roanoke, and Botetourt counties. Some projects explored at the summit were new wayfinding initiatives, travel itineraries with connections to local dining and hospitality options, workforce development through youth conservation courts, and assistance in applying the jobs within the national park system, trail and greenway development on National Park Service land, expanded engagement with land trusts to protect parkway viewsheds, and more. Opportunities to connect with the foundation staff on these issues and more will be forthcoming. And finally, we would like to welcome a new citizen representative from Franklin County, Ms. Karen Green. Ms. Green is very much involved in the Franklin County community, including her service on the Smith Mountain Lake Association. We look forward to having Ms. Green on the regional commission.
Thank you.
I think that concludes my remarks, so I will now turn it over to Mr. Holmes for his remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I wanted to provide the full board, those of you that TPO heard this already, but the building update, as you are aware, our elevator is out of order. It has finally, as Mr. Marks might say, had its last down trip. It's not going up, I'm not going up anymore. So we're in the process of going out to bid for a full modernization of that elevator. It is the original 1963 elevator. As Mr. Norris said earlier, it probably deserves a historical mark in the elevator shaft. So we hope to get that repaired within the next 6 to 8 weeks. In the interim, if your staff or any citizens who wish to engage with the commission need some additional assistance because they can't reach the conference room, please let me or Virginia know. Because obviously folks can participate by Zoom. We can find other opportunities for folks to engage with the commission in the interim. And we look forward to getting that one of our oldest building features finally updated. The second item to share, the Southeast Regional Directors Institute is going to be undertaking an organizational assessment starting in January of next year. Many of you had the opportunity to participate in CERDI's last assessment in 2017. This is basically the update of our strategic planning process. The assessment will provide several opportunities for input. So you as a board will be receiving an electronic survey the week of January 2nd through 12th. We'll also be surveying a number of other regional leaders, folks in like the partnership, heads of planning staff for your localities. There's other folks involved in leadership positions throughout our service area. We'll be hosting one-on-one focus groups with some of you. You will receive some information from me in the coming weeks about trying to schedule that. We'll be scheduling focus groups in each of our localities. So CERDI staff will come out and be meeting with you to understand what the commission is doing well, what it's not doing so well, opportunities for improvement, and so forth. And then finally, on February 22nd, CERDI will be taking over this meeting to lead the board through a work session on that organizational assessment process. And then the final strategic plan will come out of that work. So we'll have some pretty intensive research during January or February. This is something CERDI does with regional groups all over, the southeast United States. It's one of the major services they offer, and they've performed this with us at least 2 or 3 times, in the time I've been here at the commission. So I'm excited about the opportunity. It's been 5 years since our last strategic plan. A lot has changed since then, so this is a good opportunity to make sure your commission is doing what you need it to do. And then the final thing, you have a printout on the desk in front of you for this capital funding solutions program. This was just shared with us last Friday. We're still trying to get some more information. I'm sharing with you what we've got. The governor set aside $500,000 in the state finance office to assist with grant applications to IIJA programs. So much like the Valley-Alleghany program that is built for our Appalachian Regional Commission communities, this is a program at the state level that can fund any IIJA related application, raise grants for transportation. There's a number of opportunities out there. It's $500,000. I suspect that will go quickly, but we can help facilitate that. If your community is looking at an IIJ funding opportunity, and for example, the raise grants are due February. That's the old Tiger Grant program. So that's a major infrastructure program. This can be leveraged to pay for those grant writing services. And we know those are very complex, big, often hastily assembled grants. So any assistance that we can access is pretty useful. So I will share more as I learn more about that. But in the interim, if you have something on deck or an idea that this will help maybe make more likely, please let me know, and we'll get you connected with the folks in Richmond to have this discussion. So that is all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Appreciate your report. So the next item on our agenda is to consider acceptance of the fiscal year 2023 audit, and that may be found on pages 27 through 24 in your information packet. Anyone have any comments or questions about that?
We can invite Ms. Everly to
I don't know if who's going to speak. So Ms. Everly, would you like to take the podium, please, and give us your report?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I'm filling in for Corbin Sterling. He had a prior obligation he could not be here today. I'm going to start off by saying you should have 2 handouts that I laid at each of your at the tables. I want to start off by saying the audit went very well. The commission received an unmodified opinion, which means we believe that the financial statements are materially correct. We had very few proposed audit entries. Sherry does a great job here at the commission. You guys are very lucky to have her. The first handout that I want to go over is a summary of financial data. And this handout just shows the data of the commission for 9 years. And if you look at the very top line over on the top right, you have your current assets, and the current assets are either cash or other assets that can be liquidated within 1 year. And at June 30th, you had $1.7 million of current assets. The next item are non-current assets, and this is primarily the building and land that we're in today. It's important to note that the building is at the net book value, which means it's the cost less the accumulated depreciation. So the actual value, the fair market value of the building and land are actually greater than that. The next item is your current liabilities, and those were $478,000 at June 30th. And like current assets, these are just liabilities that would be liquidated within 1 year. Your long-term liabilities were approximately $35,000, and these consist of mainly accrued leave. The next item is your net investment capital assets, which are just your non-current assets. And then you have unrestricted net position of $1.25 million at June 30th. So a total of net position at June 30th of $1.48 million. Your modified accrual net income for the year was $127,500. And then there are adjustments to get it to the full accrual accounting. to get it to a change in net position from last year of $132,000. At June 30th, the commission had current ratio, which is just current assets over current liabilities of approximately 3.6%, which indicates that you guys are in good financial health. You can also see that when you're looking at the blue line, your unrestricted net position, you can see that it's gradually been growing over the last 9 years. The next item I want to discuss is the communications with those charged with governance letter. If we had any issues during the audit, we would disclose those in this letter. We had no issues during the audit. Another item that we're required to disclose in this letter are significant estimates. And one of the significant estimates that is disclosed is the depreciation expense, which I discussed with the building and the accumulated depreciation there. There was one other item this year during the fiscal year, the commission exceeded $750,000 in federal funds, so we were required to do a single audit under uniform guidance. There were no issues with a single audit, but I did want to disclose that your report looks a little different in the back for that reasoning. So it's just to explain, if you ever spend over $750,000 of federal funds in a fiscal year, you're required to do what's called a single audit. So if you've always had federal funds, it's just kind of determined, just depends on how much is spent from year to year. So I'm gonna stop there, see if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Epperly. Does anyone have any questions about the report that they prepared?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions, but they've been doing all this for us for a long time. They do an outstanding job.
Thank you,
Excellent job, and we certainly appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
thank you very much.
Anyone else?
All right, thank you for having me, and I'm gonna leave a few cards, so if you guys have any questions after we leave, you can send us an email or give us a phone call. And Sherry and Jeremy also have our contact information if needed.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here in
guys.
person
Have a
today.
great Christmas.
So can I get a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. All in favor? All opposed? That motion carries. So we got some leftover business from Mr. North's term here. He started this thing of having localities come and tell us a little about ourselves, which has been very informative. It's a great idea. And today, we have Mr. Robert Wood from Rocky Mount here with us today. So welcome, Mr. Wood, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We're happy to be here to tell you about Rocky Mount. And some of you may not know this, and Pete will know it, of course, but there's a long, proud tradition in local government management that as the manager, you take credit for everything good and don't take any responsibility for anything bad. Typically, you blame anything bad on your predecessor. So that's what I use James Irvin's for, if you didn't know James. So today, and kind of on that note, I want to let you know we have really good people working in Rocky Mount, and that's why we have some good things to tell you about today. And even though I didn't hire Mark, I'll take credit for Mark. He's going to talk to us in a minute. He was there when I got there, been there for about 6 months. And even Daniel, I take credit for him. He's going to talk to us in a minute. He, I think, had been interviewed maybe right before I got there or right after I got there.
Your first hire.
Yeah, I signed the paperwork. I had nothing to do with it other than signing the paperwork, but I take credit for it. So Mark and Daniel are going to talk to you about some things that are going on in Rocky Mount that we think are important and exciting. And we feel good about what's going on in Rocky Mount. The town was incorporated in 1873. If you do the math, that was 150 years ago. So we're having our centennial anniversary this year. And Daniel's going to talk to you a little bit about that. So I'm going to turn the time over to Mark to give you a brief introduction. You want to do that first?
I think it's so. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do a short video. Mark's going to then have a few remarks, and then he's going to turn it over to Daniel. So let's roll the video. So that while Mark's walking up, that's a branding video that we did, that we've used pretty extensively over the past couple of years. It was completed around the summer of 2021. We had just come up with a new logo and some new branding materials, and so the video was the way that we kind of rolled that out, and then we publicized that, and then I'll let Mark take it from there.
Yeah, the brand was something that one of the first things I worked on when I got here, got to Rocky Mount. So if you can advance the slide. There you go. So I'm the assistant town manager, Mark Moore. I've worked in local government almost 25 years. I've worked in Parks and Recreation prior to Rocky Mount. So I've worked in the city of Roanoke, Salem, and Botetourt, in Pennsylvania County, in Parks and Recreation. Most recently, before coming to Rocky Mount, I was the director of Parks and Recreation in Pennsylvania County. So several familiar faces, if not familiar communities, that I see here in the room. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Harvester, because another hat that I wear, as well as Robert, is we're the managers of the Harvester Performance Center in the town of Rocky Mount. Some of you may have attended a show there. So I was thinking about the Harvester and looking at all the different localities that are represented here. The footprint of the Harvester, 80% of our ticket sales approximately come from your communities. So we have a lot of Montgomery County, Roanoke County, Salem, Botetourt. We have a lot of visitors to the Harvester Performance Center. So as I said, I'm the one of the managers, a co-manager of the Harvester Performance Center. And a brief kind of diagram of the setup and the structure of the Harvester Performance Center. It is the cornerstone of our downtown revitalization. It'll be 10 years old next year. We'll be celebrating the anniversary of the Harvester next year, and it has brought a lot of revitalization to our downtown area. The building was purchased in 2012 at auction for $250,000. It is a former Harvester International tractor sales, so that's where the name Harvester comes from. If you think that you've heard that name before. The town then set up an EDA and spawned off of that LLCs. And so Robert and I are co-managers of the Harvester LLCs that house the operations and the alcohol license and those kinds of different things that we can get way down to the weeds on. But so the structure is the town owns the Harvester Performance Center, leases the building to the town's EDA, and the EDA actually manages the LLCs, and they manage it through the managers like Robert and I. So that is a very broad view of how it's set up. The EDAs, many of you have those. You know that EDAs can do things that towns can't. And so the town is the largest contributor financially to the Harvester. We're working on changing those things, but one step at a time. We have approximately 75 shows at the Harvester each year. Pre-pandemic, it was 150. 150 was not a sustainable financial number of shows. So when I started in October of 2020, right in the dead middle of COVID, the Harvester had just shut down, as everything else did. And we wouldn't reopen for another year. And so my instructions were coming out of COVID, we want the Harvester to be more financially, fiscally responsible. We want to very much meticulous use the COVID as a reset button for the Harvester. And so a few things that we did were we went from town employees that were working at the Harvester to contractual employees. We hired Midwinter Entertainment out of Charlotte, and they do the talent booking and they do the operations of the Harvester. So we farmed out a lot of the expense of having town employees and all that come with full-time employees. We farmed that out. We worked with the entertainment group to set a budget in a number of shows that would be more fiscally responsible knowing the appetite of, the council at that time for funding for the harvester. They see it and correctly so. We see it as an economic engine, for the town. We see funds, council sees funds put into the harvester as an investment in economic development, because that's what it is. It brings tourists to town. From time to time, we'll have citizens say, I don't go to a lot of the shows that you have because I don't know the names of some of the bands. And truth serum is, we don't want town residents to be the only ones going to the harvester shows. We want people coming in from outside, and that's what generates meals taxes and heads on beds and, you know, fills up our hotels and our bed and breakfast. So the tourism engine, it's a great thing for the town of Rocky Mount. 75 shows. Last year, we had 12,000 visitors to shows there. A few things that we did coming out of COVID, where the tickets were all general admission, so you bought a ticket and you didn't have necessarily a seat, you know, a specific seat. And so what you would do is you would get there early and you would wait in line to get in, because kind of first come, first serve to get the best seat. Well, we know in public sector economic development, we don't want people tethered to that building. If it was a private building, yes, we would want them to come into the harvester and eat a nice meal and stay there and never go out into the community. We would want them to stay there. But public sector, we don't want that. We want them to come to the harvester for the show, and then we want them to patronize our local businesses. So one of the small things, but really big things coming out, that first thing we did was we changed it from general admission to paid admission, where you pick a seat. Many of you have been to concerts and theater shows where you pick a seat. So you know, if the show starts at 7 and you get there at 6 or you get there at 8, you always have the same seat. And so what that does is it untethers people to our building. We don't want our businesses around the harvester to look out their window and see a long line of people standing at the harvester, which is, we have many pictures of that. And so we don't want the long lines out there. We want them out into the community. We want them spending money in our businesses. So we untethered them, something simple. We went away from some of the food that the prepared food. We have more prepackaged food now, kettle corn. We have draft beer, wine, things like that. But again, we don't want them coming and eating dinner in the harvester. On the private side, they would want them to come again. We all know that, but you know, when I give presentations to council or to the EDA or to the community, it's always a reminder of, you know, what the purpose in economic development, especially on the public side. It's an economic engine that brings people in. And so we want to do everything we can to not have them do, you know, we don't serve burgers and things like that. So we want them to go across the street to the burger company, to the Anastasia Speakeasy. We want them to go to Ippy's or Buddy's Barbecue. We want them to go out into the community and eat, spend their money there, and then know they have a seat when they come back. So I know that I'm definitely preaching to the choir here, but those are some of the tenets of what the harvester is for the community. It's not just about what the band is coming. It's about how many tickets did we sell, where are those tickets sold from, and those kinds of things. So the harvester is a great economic engine there in town. And so coming out of COVID, we went from 150 shows to actually cut it back to 50, because we didn't know exactly what the world was going to do when we came out of COVID. And we had mask mandates, and we had the vaccine mandates as well that were artist generated when we started to reopen. So we didn't really know what the music world was going to look like. No one did. And so first year we had 50 shows. We got closer to being break even. That's always been council's goal, is we want to at least break even. So we worked hard to create a budget that we could stick to. We were close to breaking even the first year. The second year coming out that we just completed, we were up to the positive about $200,000. So we have now 75 shows. We have businesses in the community that are wanting more shows, which is good. And I could talk on and on about the Harvester and the ins and outs of that, but I know we have a limited amount of time, and I want to give Daniel some time to talk about some other economic development projects that we've done. But the Harvester's been a great thing for us. We're the eastern gateway to Crooked Road. If you've driven through Rocky Mount, you know we have guitars and music notes on trash cans and benches, and music is our thing. So we have jumped with both feet in with our, from our logging to our branding in town, the Harvester, and other things like that. So I'll stop there and pass it along to Daniel, let him talk a little bit about some other economic development projects. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again for having us. I'm Daniel Bernard. I'm the town's Cultural and Economic Development Director. So I do some of the tourism marketing for the town, in addition to economic development, which in Rocky Mount is everything from the farmers market to the industrial. You can advance this slide a little bit. One project that we've been working on recently is that we were awarded a planning grant from DHCD for a business district revitalization. Now, this is the same pocket of money that DHCD typically funds for downtown revitalization. But when we were looking at the program, we wanted to look long-term at the town's future. And the downtown has received significant private investment, as has the Route 40 corridor in town. But North Main and Rocky Mount, which is also US 220 and has an interchange with, or US 220 business and has an interchange with US 220, has seen significantly less private investment. And that's given that it has general business zoning. So looking 20 years into the future, we know that there will be development here, but we want to make sure that we set the stage and make sure that it's developed appropriately, especially given that it has a wide variety of stakeholders. So there is commercial development on North Main. In addition, there's education with the county's only public middle school. There's industrial, Flygen, which is the largest manufacturing employee. They employ 1,200 folks in Franklin County, and they're located right on this corridor. In addition, there are recreational amenities and a lot of residential housing just immediately off of the corridor. So with that variety of stakeholders and the community-focused structure of the community development block grant, this was a good opportunity for us to focus on this corridor with the business district revitalization. Because in addition, if you are going to a show at the Harvester and you're coming from outside of the area and you're heading southbound on 220, your GPS is going to take you down North Main. So we want this to be not just a corridor that's open for business to the community, but also welcoming to visitors who are coming to see a show at the Harvester. You want to have one of the restaurants downtown. And you can advance the slide. Additionally, on this corridor, there's a parcel that the town has owned for the past 20 plus years, but it's been encumbered as part of a lease to the local YMCA. They have put in a walking trail, but they, in recent years, they haven't had the funding to be able to maintain it. So they made the request that we terminate the lease and revert management of the property back to the town. So now it is a town park and it will be the site of a dog park in the near future, likely this coming spring, which will actually be the first public dog park in all of Franklin County. So all of these are efforts in trying to improve the quality of life amenities for not just Rocky Mount, because we're also the hub of the county. So our population is around 5,000, but our trade area is significantly larger because we have a lot of people in migrate during the day. And items for amenities like dog parks are becoming a standard across the country. You can advance the next slide. And of course, Rocky Mount and Franklin County are the moonshine capital of the world. So we were going to talk about that at some point. So ABC has a relatively new license called the Designated Outdoor Refreshment Area, which allows for specific events. People can go to bars and restaurants, get a alcoholic beverage in a specific cup, and they can bring that cup outside of the establishment as long as they stay within a defined area. This gives us a lot of flexibility with events, and moving forward, we'll be able to do a monthly series of events. I know a lot of communities in this room have successful monthly events like Fridays After 5, First Fridays, Mingle at the Market. This will give us a lot of flexibility in trying to plan events like this. Additionally, by going the route of the Dora versus having a beer garden, it allows the local restaurants in our downtown and uptown to be the ones who profit from these events versus bringing in a regional distributor who's making the money selling the exact same product the restaurant just a block away sells. So it's a way of providing fun events for our visitors and for our community, but also supporting our local businesses. You can advance to the next slide. As Robert mentioned, this year's Rocky Mount's 150th anniversary. I'll let him say the hard word. I'll just say 150th anniversary. And throughout the year, we've had a number of events that have been focused on interpreting, commemorating, and celebrating the town's history. The biggest of which, and you can go to the next slide, was an event this past September on September 30th called 150 Fest. Like Robert and Mark said, we're a music town. We're the gateway to the Crooked Road. We have national and international touring artists come to the Harvester all the time. In addition, we have a ton of local talent. So we thought it'd be appropriate to celebrate the town's anniversary with the music festival. So we had on September 30th, this is the lineup. Almost all of these bands are from Rocky Mount or Franklin County. So there's a ton of local talent. We had the designated outdoor refreshment area in effect. And it was likely one of the largest events in the town's history. We blocked off the streets. We had likely in excess of 15,000 people in downtown Rocky Mount during that one-day event. And let me just repeat that we have a population of 5,000. So this was a huge attraction. It was a great event for the community to celebrate what they love about Rocky Mount, but also reintroduce ourselves to the larger area. Our tagline, what you saw on the first slide, was Rocky Mount, we're something else. And we think that really embodies what we're trying to do with that branding video with our tourism marketing. A lot of people have been to Rocky Mount and they, maybe it was 10, 15 years ago, they might have an outdated picture of what Rocky Mount is. So we're trying to introduce to them and introduce to everyone in this room is that we are something else. You know, in our downtown, we have a world-class performance venue. We have a restaurant, we have a distillery tasting room, a speakeasy, a brewery, a wine bar, and additional restaurant that opened up in development. There's our 2 restaurants, one being opened by Center Stage Catering. There's a lot of work throughout the region. In addition, there's a boutique hotel that's being developed. So there are a lot of things that make Rocky Mount great, and we're excited to tell that to the larger region. We can go to the next slide. These are some pictures from 150 Fest. And one of the things that we kept hearing that night and have heard since is that it's slightly unbelievable that an event like that happened in downtown Rocky Mount. You can go to the next slide.
It made the pages of the Roanoke Times.
They did. Yeah, we were excited to show off about it. Another thing that we've been working on lately is partnering more closely with Ferrum College. So Ferrum is, of course, just 15 minutes outside of town limit. When people are going to Ferrum College, they're likely driving right through our downtown because State Route 40 goes through our downtown to Ferrum. They have a new president out there, Dr. Martin, and she's been a driving force in increasing the enrollment out there. And they are doing a lot of exciting things. So we're trying to help them increase the ties to the local business community. So we're being a conduit in that sense. But also we're looking inward and seeing what we can do to be a more welcoming college town. So that a lot of times it starts with small things like putting up pole banners in our downtown. We already had the brackets for them. All we had to do was order the banners themselves. In addition, we have an over-the-road banner that we started putting up during freshman orientation and events like graduation. It says, "Welcome home, Panthers." So it's a lot of small things that we're just trying to make sure that we're inviting the students into town, making sure that they feel like they're part of a community outside of that little island of fair. And so next, Mr. Robert Wood is going to be talking about likely the largest project of anything to address our housing shortage. So during COVID, this commission did a regional housing analysis that actually zoomed in on or had a piece of it focused on Franklin County and showed the significant housing shortage there in the county and in the town specifically. And so the town has taken steps to address that housing shortage.
So very quickly, because I think we're probably over our time, but the area that's outlined here is at the intersection of highways 220 and 40. And right here, you can see there's a ready-mix plant on this corner. So the corner that a lot of the visitors, the first thing that a lot of people see when they exit 220 coming into Rocky Mount, or if they come in from the lake, come in on Highway 40, is is this ready mix plant. It's an important part of our infrastructure to have it. We don't really want it in that location. So, earlier this year, we actually worked out a deal with the owner of the ready mix plant who owned all of the property in outlined in blue here. And so the ready mix plant is in the process of relocating more or less catty corner from where it is now. It'll be over here in our industrial park and not be as visible when people come into town. They'll get a new modernized ready mix plant. The town will then get all of this property, which is in the perfect location to have either visitor type destinations like a hotel or restaurant or something for people that are on one of the highways. And then the thought and what we've talked about so far with the council with this property, 5 acres, we would have commercial in the front and then eventually transition back to residential further in the property. And so, as most of you are probably in the same situation, we need all kinds of housing, single family homes, apartments, duplexes, and all of that. So we want this to be a mixed use type development. And so over the next few years, we'll be working hopefully with some developers to make that happen. And that's one of the largest undeveloped properties in Rocky Mount that was still available. And so it was exciting to get our council on board to purchase that. And we are looking forward to what we can do to make that an amenity for the community. And that's what we have to tell you today, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the Rocky Mountain team?
Hey, I just want to let them know, I saw the student property in Harvester, and they're fantastic. You got tickets online, then once we got there, we could upgrade the tickets and get a little closer to the band, but y'all bring in big names, and, you know, good work. I like that.
Yeah, the Harvester, Mark talked about it quite a bit as far as some of the differences pre-COVID and post-COVID. But one of the things that we feel like we're doing better at is finding the bands that are kind of the sweet spot where they're not so expensive that it kind of breaks the bank to bring them to town,
Right.
but that they're popular enough that people want to come. And Mark and I talk all the time when people say, oh, the ticket prices are too high. Well, it's a very simple math equation to solve, right? You have a certain number of dollars the band wants, and we have 400 seats more or less to divide it between. So it kind of works out pretty easily. So yeah, we're trying to find the right balance of big enough bands that people are excited to go see them, but then not so expensive that nobody can afford to go. So we have groups coming this year like Oak Ridge Boys. They're doing their farewell tour and they will be here in August. The tickets went on sale Friday morning at 10. And I think by that night, there were maybe 20 tickets left. And now it's completely sold out. So we're getting really good response from the area, from the region on the tickets. And we're excited about next year. We're going to have a really heavy schedule in April when it's the 10-year anniversary. Where there'll be a bunch of bands that most of them haven't been announced yet, but it'll be a lot of bands with all different kinds of music to get all different kinds of people to come into town and come to our restaurants and other businesses.
That's interesting. Anyone else?
Good presentation.
That's very good.
All right, thank you.
Who hasn't done the presentation? Franklin County is the only remaining. Yeah. Okay, we gotta get Franklin. We can't get them in here.
And just to echo Mr. Radford's comments, it's a great venue. So if you ever have a chance to go see a show, I'd highly recommend you take the opportunity to go visit the Harvester. All right, the next item on our agenda is the Chesapeake Bay Work Program update. And we'll ask Mr. Idigare to come up and present, please.
We had something on the follow.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Gabriel Ebride, Regional Planner here at the Commission, and I will be providing a brief update about our Chesapeake Bay Work Program. This is something we try to do annually, just to share what's been going on within the work program and how we've been involved in this multi-state swing of effort. A little bit about where we're working with the program and the issues we're looking to address. Quick hydrology lesson for y'all. Our service area is located in 3 major drainage basins. In the blue here, we have the Upper James River watershed, which encompasses the Highland communities, as well as, most of Botetourt, Craig, and a little bit of, Roanoke County. That ultimately drains into the Chesapeake Bay. We have, in the pink, the Roanoke River, watershed, which ends up in the Albemarle Sound, down in OBX. And then this orange sliver here is Sinking Creek, which is a part of the Green River drainage basin, which ultimately ends up in the Gulf of Mexico. So we've got water going a lot of different places. The four source sectors we're looking to address, and make nutrient, reductions to are centralized wastewater treatment plants. We're also looking at residential sources like on-site septic systems, agricultural fields, and then general urban, stormwater runoff from, cityscapes and impervious surfacing. About the work program and the funding structure. So we received this funding from the Department of Environmental Quality. It's federal pass-through funds from the EPA's Chesapeake Bay Program Office that DEQ distributes to the 15 PDCs within the Chesapeake Bay watershed with the purpose of providing interim and administrative assistance to local stakeholders. Mostly aimed at supporting the unregulated localities or those that don't already have existing stormwater management requirements. Each PDC receives $58,000 and we provide a 25% match. This has been a pretty consistent source of funding for the last couple of years, and it's looking like it will continue. DEQ did have some Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funding come through to help support PDCs who are interested in doing more with this program, and I'll talk more about those funds in some later slides. State of the watershed. So this has been an effort that's been going on for over 40 years now, and in a watershed so big, progress has ebbed and flowed. So in the last 15 years, since 13 years in 2010, the Chesapeake Bay Program Office established 2025 as a milestone year and calculated some nutrient reductions to be completed before 2025 that would put the bay in a state of stability and not prone to collapse. With a watershed spanning 64,000 square miles in 6 states, or 6 states in the District of Columbia, there's areas that have seen great nutrient reductions, some that have seen more degradation, but generally it's been a steady increase towards the 2025 goals. We are lucky to live in what is considered one of the healthiest watersheds here in the Upper James. And so I mentioned that deadline of 2025 is approaching quickly. The most recent data has shown that for the 3 pollutants of concern, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment, we have already reached our goal for sediment loading. So this line represents those 2025 nutrient reductions. You can see for nitrogen and phosphorus, we still have a ways to go, and it's widely acknowledged that these goals won't be met before 2025. So larger players in the game are starting to look at what this program looks like beyond 2025, what needs to happen in the next few years to get as close to these goals as possible, and how to continue moving forward past that date. So a little bit about how we're involved in this cleanup effort. This past year, we hosted our first couple of rain barrel workshops with partnership with Mount Castle Soil and Water Conservation District. One was held this spring at Eagle Rock Library, and then this fall we had one at Buchanan Library. Environmental education activities, we participate with local schools during their field days to go out with students and do water quality testing, doing sampling for aquatic insects, things that kind of complement the in-class curriculum that they have so they can get some hands-on experience. We also participate in various events, doing presentations. Most recently, we were at Clean Valley Council's Earth Summit, talking about careers in the environmental field to students who were interested. And then the various awareness events throughout the year, we try to do social media campaigns for. So things like Chesapeake Bay Awareness Week and then National Water Quality Month. Subject pump out support is something we've really honed in on. For the last year and a half, we've operated the Roanoke County Septic System Education and Pump Out Program. This provides 96 cost-free pump outs for low-income residents. And we're about halfway to that goal of 96. We've completed 49 pump outs so far. And initially, this was designed to be a pilot program to see if we could expand it into other parts of our service area. But we have received interest from our grantor, the Virginia Environmental Endowment, to continue this funding past that 96 pump out goal. Assistance with riparian buffer plantings. This is a major area that a lot of our partners are working in, especially with our ag fields. So we have supported them with actually tending plantings, providing assistance with identifying priority areas within our service area, and then distributing materials about their programs. Stormwater assistance and planning. We've worked with a couple of groups to do some green infrastructure projects. This past year, we submitted a grant for design work for 2 stormwater management facilities for the city of Covington, and we hope to hear back beginning of 2024. And then we are also working with the Mount Castle's Stormwater Conservation District on a stormwater conveyance system project at the Field of Dreams site in Craig County. And then stakeholder engagement and collaboration. We operate the watershed partners of the Upper James Group, and that is just our general stakeholder group. So we provide meetings for the partners in our area to talk about their projects, connect with each other, and to serve as a platform for collaboration. And this kind of, is a snapshot of what we've been doing this year. But this program has spanned, beyond years. So this is kind of a culmination of all the work we've done since I've been here. They came on board in 2020. And so looking ahead, we are just looking to kind of continue these efforts, especially with rain barrel workshops and septic pump outs. So I mentioned the interest in expanding the Roanoke County Septic Pump Out Program. So we have requested funds from DEQ through that IIJA opportunity to expand it into more portions of our Chesapeake Bay watershed. We hope to hear back about that funding before the end of the year. Rain barrel workshops have been well received by Bonafide County citizens as well as their library staff, as we have plans to host at least one more this upcoming year with the flexibility to do more if there's demand for it. Improvements to wastewater treatment systems. This is something that we've talked with the Western Virginia Water Authority about, where they are looking at creating expansions to their current systems, as ultimately pump outs are really good for some short-term maintenance needs, but ultimately what you want to do is get folks connected to these centralized systems. I mentioned the green infrastructure projects that we have going on, so those will continue next year, and then we're also actively looking for more opportunities for those. And then, of course, education and outreach will continue just to create more awareness about these issues in our area, not only for the benefits to the waterways, but also how they impact our community health, as well as the various outdoor recreation amenities that we have here. So that was a really quick overview about things that have been going on with the program this year. If you have any questions right now, feel free to ask, but I'm also available offline.
Anyone have any questions? There we go, Mr.
You had a slide that gave all your services, your activities. How does a locality or any organization arrange for that? Is it a direct appeal to you, or is it through a large organization?
Yeah, so it'd be a direct appeal to me. And we take project inquiries as they're presented to us. And so again, the Roanoke County pump out program came from talking with their stormwater staff, and they have a lot of effort in going into trying to support awareness about septic pump outs. And then we found this grant opportunity that would actually provide pump outs. So we found it as a good opportunity to mesh kind of their work and what we can provide assistance for. So it's really just we try to make it we try to make our service available to provide these local benefits, but also trying to reach these more general watershed goals that we have.
One other question, you said that, or one of your slides said that the Upper James River is one of the healthiest watersheds.
Within the
Do
Bay.
do you mean that literally it's a watershed or is it a river through that section? I know they're related, but.
It's more so from the water quality perspective, so the actual, waterway, yes. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you, y'all. I know that was a lot of information, but again, I'm available to talk more about it if you have any interest.
Thank you for the report. We appreciate it. Let's see, moving down through our agenda, the next item is the commission's committee reports. And we'll start with Mr. Hill, please, with the Blue Ridge Interagency Council on Homelessness report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Just have a very quick update from our last one in September, and then I'm going to turn over the sodium to Ms. Anne-Marie Green with the Council Community Services. She's going to talk a bit more about the continuum of care. But just in some of the activities that we've had sort of offline, in late November, Matt Cruikshank, who's with the city of Roanoke and is, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's chair of the COC. We had discussions with the Allegheny Highlands Community Services Board, who are interested in applying for permanent supportive housing funding through the recent funding that's available through the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health. And they were interested in securing from us being the council and the community, the continuum of care, a letter of support. Their project is along the lines of receiving grant funding so that they can then manage a couple of buildings for permanent supportive housing in Allegheny County. We continue that discussion with a kind of a bead on getting more coordination with and getting more firm contacts in Allegheny County in terms of one, our annual point in time counts really have not had a good coordination there, and so we're working on trying to get a presence there in the future. So I guess stay tuned for in the future as we develop that that ongoing relationship. The Allegheny County is, of course, in the continuum of care, and as well as cities of Covington, Roanoke, and then Allegheny, Botetourt, Craig, and Roanoke counties. So at this point, I will turn over the podium to Anne-Marie.
Brian. I am Anne-Marie Green. I'm the president of the Council of Community Services. I know a lot of you because I retired from 30 years at Roanoke County and was lucky enough to take this job afterwards. The Council of Community Services is located down the street at the corner of 5th and Campbell. We were founded by a gentleman named Franklin Puck, who ran the Baptist Children's Home in the city of Salem in 1960. We do a lot of things, but what I'm going to talk about today isn't really just the continuum of care, but the homeless management information system and the information that's available on that system, what the state of homelessness is right now in the Roanoke Valley, and what the local government can help us with in the future. With me today is Brian Burnett. He is the Director of Housing for the Council. One of the things that we run is the Community Housing Research Center, where we do rapid rehousing and homelessness prevention. I know that homelessness is a hot topic for all the local governments. We talk about it at BRIC. It seems like one of those problems where everybody talks about it and nobody does anything about it. But I'm hoping we can show you today a little bit what is being done. HMIS is the Homeless Management Information System. You have to have that if you have a COC, a continuum of care. HUD requires that, and so, we do have one. We'll show you later, what localities are covered by our continuum of care. The Council of Community Services operates that HMIS system for the local governments and the COC and the members of the COC. And so we are able to talk about a little bit of the actual data and how the homeless service providers use that system and how we could probably use it a little bit better. I'm going to let Brian talk about the next few slides. Homelessness is an extremely complicated issue, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about that.
I think, if you can go to the next slide, please. One of the things we struggle with in homeless services is communicating accurate and good information to the public about the issue of homelessness. I've found several ways of helping to illustrate it, and a lot of them that you'll find online and in publications tend to be focused on financial issues. Homelessness is about people losing their finances, getting behind on their rent, ending up in an eviction process, and then they become homeless. And the services should be centered around helping them get employment or get their finances back so they can be housed again. But actually, homelessness is vastly more complex than that. If you could go to the next slide. So I made my own custom graphic to share to demonstrate how complicated the cycle of homelessness is. Besides just housing instability issues, which include things like our lack of affordable housing in all of our localities, all of the raising rents over the last few years, rents have gone up 15 to 20% in our area. The landlords have started to require much more background checks, credit checks, and put other sorts of barriers to being able to rent. That's one area of the issue of homelessness that we have to address. We have people who experience a great deal of trauma, have mental health issues and substance use issues, and that in itself is a cycle. Those issues both cause homelessness, but people also begin to experience them and are exacerbated by being homeless. So that prevents them from being able to develop skills and able to own or rent a home, take care of it, have regular daily living skills to take care of home. There's the general issues of poverty and social exclusion, racism, and that create barriers to being able to be housed. And then there's just the complexity of all of our different service systems. For someone who lives in poverty or is homeless, navigating our service system can be a full-time undertaking. So the issue of homelessness in and of itself is vastly complex, and it takes the coordination of so many service providers in order to just help one person get housed. So over the last year, our COC and our strategic plan has implemented some communication goals that Anne Marie is going to come back up and talk about in order to help dispel some of the myths of homelessness and better communicate with our average citizens what is going on with the issue.
So, I will, at the end of these myths, you'll have the website where you can see the answers to the myths, but, we hear this all the time when we're asked, well, what's wrong with these people? They should just get a job and then they won't be homeless. They've made a choice to be homeless. They're dangerous, violent, they're criminals. Housing should come with conditions like being clean and sober. Next one, please. There's nothing I can do about homelessness. People experience it are lazy. If they wanted to, they could pull themselves out of it. It's all about personal choice. The homeless in our community, we hear this a lot, are from somewhere else and moved here for all the free services. Next slide, please. And here you will see the link to end homelessness, BlueRidge.org, which is a website for BRIC and the COC, and you'll see the answer to that. None of those are uniformly or even generally true. Many of our homeless people, for example, do have jobs. As Brian showed you, the reason they're homeless is not because they're lazy. It's just a variety of very complicated issues that put people out onto the street. People that don't want to be there and they want to find someplace else to live. They want a place to live. Now, we have, some slides here to talk about the percentages of your citizens that are homeless and the service, and the percentage that receive our services. Brian will talk about this also, but I want to caution you about the numbers. Many of these are self-reported. So if you say to somebody, where were you before you became homeless? Well, we all know that if you go on, East Main Street in Salem, not everyone knows where that Welcome to Roanoke sign is. Or same on Fort 19 from Salem, where Welcome to Roanoke County. So a lot of this is where they think they live. Some of it's by zip code. Some of it is, well, when did I become homeless? I was sleeping on my friend's sofa for 2 nights. And so was it then that I became homeless? So you have to take some of it with a grain of salt. And as Brian Hill mentioned, the point in time count, we don't have the resources to go every place to find those people that are unsheltered. Most of that is done in the city of Roanoke. We are expanding into the city of Salem and Roanoke County, but there's still a lot of people that do not get counted. So Brian will walk you through the data.
So normally when we share the number of homeless people in our area, we present the pit count numbers, the single night every year that HUD requires us to count the number of people who are homeless in our area. The numbers I want to present today are based on how many people, how many unique individuals were served by our programs across an entire calendar year. So obviously we have seen a distinct increase in homelessness since the pandemic began. So this first graphic is people who were served by shelter programs. We distinguish homeless people from whether they are in shelters or living unsheltered, living outside. So in 2022, we saw a drastic increase in the number of sheltered individuals. Some of that was because there were some restrictions on shelter services because of COVID. They had to keep the numbers down so people could socially distance and things like that. But in general, we are seeing a great increase because of people not being able to afford to live anywhere. Next slide, please. Unsheltered homelessness has also increased. These are your people who are camping near the Greenway, camping all over the place. They're served by our street outreach programs, so that's how we count those individuals. Next slide. So as Anne Marie said, we track people by what locality they came from, because we want to dispel the myth that people are being bused into Roanoke to take advantage of our services. Roanoke City obviously represents about 80% of the homeless population, but some of that is because that's where all of the homeless services are located. But there are homeless people in all of your localities. They're probably just not being counted as much. And so for sheltered people, over 80% of people who live in Roanoke City, 9.5% live in Roanoke County, 7.1% came from Salem City, and much smaller percentages from Craig and Allegheny. Next slide. Unsheltered is very similar numbers, 80% from Roanoke City, 11% from Roanoke County, 5.8% from Salem City, and smaller percentages from the others. Go ahead.
So does that mean none of the individuals came from outside of?
No, I only pulled those numbers for people who came from COC localities.
Okay.
We do track the other places they came from, and they're probably, maybe 10% of all people served came from outside other places in Virginia or outside of the state. So the one final category we look at is people who are at risk of homelessness. That means that they're already housed, but if they're housed unstably, they're at risk for becoming evicted. So these are actually based on where people live and seek services to get rental assistance or something to help them stay housed. So 80% come from Roanoke City, 13% from Roanoke County, 6% from Salem City. These are your citizens that are already living in your locality and may become homeless. Okay, go ahead. And Ray's going to talk a little more about the COC.
So this is the COC coverage area. It does not exactly mirror the PDC. Obviously, Franklin County is not part of it, but it is Salem, Roanoke, Covington, and then the county of Allegheny, Craig, Ottacott, and Roanoke County. It's a large area, and, that's how we report out. Next slide, please. So let me talk a little bit about what the makeup of the COC. The continuum of care is made up of main service providers, shelters, street outreach, organizations you're probably all familiar with, Ram House, Rescue Mission, the Veterans Administration, us, Family Promise. In particular, the city of Roanoke has a lot of resources involved in the COC. They are the chair of the COC, they monitor it, they receive the funding from HUD. They have HAT, which is the homeless assistance team, and their street outreach program, and they also run central intake, which is the main point of contact for someone who is either homeless or about to become homeless from any of your jurisdictions. They have to come to the city of Roanoke and enter in through central intake. Next slide, please. So we also have partners, the Virginia Workforce Development people work very closely with us, Blue Ridge Behavioral Health Care, Carillion, harm reduction. We have a harm reduction program, several, but one is run by our agency, where we had funding for backpacks for homeless people that included things like hand warmers, socks, gloves, harm reduction, material, food, nabs, things like that, and connection to basic needs. Next slide, please. Okay, Brian will talk about the definition.
Some key things that we want to help everyone understand better about the COC system is we use a system called coordinated entry in order to connect people to housing assistance. Anyone who is homeless and encounters a shelter or street outreach program is given a vulnerability assessment, and they're put on something called a community queue, which is essentially a master list of everyone who's homeless. It allows us to pull people based on their vulnerability and how long they've been homeless. It allows us to do it in a more equitable way, to try and prioritize the people who are most vulnerable, and hopefully to shorten their length of time homeless. You'll see in a minute that it's a huge number of people, but it's the way we use to connect them to resources as best we can. Next slide. The main two housing programs that's the COC oversees, Commonwealth Catholic Charities has a permanent supportive housing program. This is a housing program where people receive an open-ended service time. They're given help finding housing, and then they're given supportive services, transportation, case management, and all those kind of things. Rapid rehousing, which is the program the council runs, it is a housing solution for individuals who are homeless, but they don't have to be disabled. We provide financial assistance, housing navigation, and case management to try and help get someone placed and then get stabilized in housing. Go ahead. So without coordinated entry, we essentially have hundreds of people scattered around looking for housing, competing for the same units, competing for the same financial assistance, not knowing what is available to them. But with coordinated entry, our goal is to funnel people into the same place so that people in the know can help get them to the housing resources that they need. And so we were required by HUD to use coordinated entry to put people in PSH and rapid rehousing programs. But we also use it to a more limited extent to help get people into housing choice voucher applications and some other self-resolve situations. Go ahead. Here's the part that is scary. On our community queue, I pulled a number from December 6th. We have 561 identified homeless individuals on our community queue. But the problem is, with our PSH, rapid rehousing, and other programs, we only have about 150 resource openings. We have a limited amount of funding. There's a limited amount of caseload sizes that our staff can actually handle at any given time. So we're trying to funnel that many people through a system that only has 150 open. We do it as best we can. We do it in as equitable ways we can. Yes, sir.
So could you describe what an opening means? In other words, there are different types of housing. So,
Right.
so are you talking about beds at the rescue mission? Is the number of available beds is how many are open?
No. These are people who would already be at the rescue mission, and the rescue mission has essentially an open-ended number of beds to meet the needs of people. Resource openings are essentially slots, pairing them up with either a voucher or
more permanent housing.
or someone's case for permanent housing. These are for permanent housing. So in PSH, our program serves about 40 chronic or disabled individuals and 7 veterans. Our rapid rehousing programs can serve about 75 households a year. And then the housing choice voucher, we do have a homeless preference agreement with the housing authority, but it just depends on how many vouchers are open at any given point, how many people we can work in. So it varies. So we have a very big undertaking in the COC. Yes, sir.
My understanding that we do these housing first initiatives.
Yeah.
With such a huge need for housing, why have we not moved to implementing transitional housing or something like that to get some of these folks off the street while we're trying to fill this permanent housing? Because I know that we met with the Roanoke Redevelopment and Housing Authority. They have a wait list of 4,000 people on their housing voucher list.
Right.
So even if you're giving some of those spots to folks that are homeless, that means there are a lot of homeless walking the streets of our
Right.
city.
Well, and transitional housing is another really complicated issue. Some of it is where you're gonna locate it. There's NIMBY issues with having a physical spot. You could do like a hotel voucher program, but over the last 3 years, we've lost a lot of our hotel partners who we used to do similar things with. We lost the Ramada, the Days Inn, the Budget Inn on Williamson Road. We would have partnered with them to do some hotel vouchers and things like that, although that's a very limited amount too. HUD doesn't really provide a whole lot of hotel products. So it's just difficult. We just don't have enough resources to meet the needs of the homeless population.
Thank you.
So, Brick, I know that Brian Hill gives you reports every month on Brick. Brick is a, very amorphous entity, which I had a very difficult time understanding when I came to the council. Blue Ridge Interagency Council on Homelessness. It's a group of people, and I'll show you the makeup in a minute, that does oversee the COC. And we do the strategic planning, we coordinate, approve the funding that comes in from the state, the federal government, what agencies are gonna get it, they have to apply for it and tell us what the program's gonna be. We oversee the delivery of the homeless services, do the pick count, et cetera. And then every month we have a meeting right here in this room and review the performance measurements and how well the system is working. Next slide, please. So what it currently includes, and we're about to go through opportunity to look at the governance of BRIC and see if we can maybe increase some of our participation and be a little bit more open about what BRIC does. And it does currently include just about all the homeless service providers, a staff person here from the Regional Commission, the city, HUD Community Resources, that's the people that get the financing from HUD and let us know what kind of financing is available and when. Roanoke City and Roanoke County, which also covers Salem Department of Social Services. We have some faith-based organizations. We have the coordinator for the city schools for homeless students. And one thing you need to know is the definition of homelessness for schools is different from HUD's definition of homelessness. It's a broader definition and probably more realistic. Staff from Blue Ridge Behavioral Health Care, staff from the VA, and then any other service providers. We would like to include some law enforcement representation, more local government reps. I know it's a long drive from places like Covington and Allegheny County, but we do work with them, and it'd be great if they could sometimes come more. Healthcare providers, we don't really have anyone from the local health systems, and staff from the other school systems, particularly probably the larger ones, and they also have some homeless money. Next slide, please. How can you all help? Well, you know, obviously, we can always use money, but that's not what I'm there to talk about. Well, Jeremy told me I couldn't, which is okay. We really need, your help in sharing information about homelessness, like what we provided today and other things we can provide with, our legislative delegation, because the state does provide us a lot of our money through Virginia Housing Development Committee resources. Your constituents, when they have questions about the homeless people, help contribute to the cost of the homeless management information system. That is entirely paid for, the amount that is paid by HUD and the city of Roanoke. Send representatives, like I've just talked about, law enforcement, school, et cetera, to BRIC meetings. And, look at what kind of resources would help address the homelessness of your own citizens. There's a different homeless issue in Craig County than there is in downtown Roanoke, clearly. So that's something that we have data, we just need the resources to kind of give you that data. And I think that's the last slide, if I'm right. Do you have any other questions? We can always run reports for you if you have questions about your locality or other topics.
Yep, how does this compare to, how are we looking compared to, say, a like community, elsewhere in the state, like Charlottesville or someplace in Hanover County, which is kind of similar populations in this area? Do you have any idea? I mean, these increases are, you know, double digit, 89 and 73 or 79, 89%.
50%, 35%.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
that's across the United States.
That's pretty consistent.
Is it okay?
Everywhere, yes. Yeah, there's not representative of a problem here in Roanoke. It is a
Right,
United
okay,
States problem.
thank you.
Part of it, a big part's the cost of housing. People just can't afford it.
Well, availability.
Right.
Does the housing instability include, folks that are living with either family or friends just because to keep themselves from living?
They're not counted, right?
We don't measure those people because
They don't meet
they're
the
HUD
definition.
considers them housed. But they are a huge contributing factor to the population.
And if there are children, the school system do count them because they have a different definition. And I think it's 50%. Hundreds of dollars.
In one place you talk about people versus households. It's 591 households. How many people?
Well, it would be. I mean, our individual numbers is probably closer to 1,000 for my individuals. I think our last community outcomes report that we presented at the October meeting was for the last fiscal year. The shelter system is seeing about 1,300 people through the other year. Doesn't mean they're all there at the same time. And then unsheltered, they have seen about 800 or 900 people.
Have y'all, I know we have this opioid abatement fund that's coming out, and a lot of this homelessness is from addiction and other mental health issues. Have you guys gone for any of the, submitted any grants for any of that opioid funding?
I don't know if the city, if anything, the county, I think, just opened their request for grants for opioid money, and the city, I think, is already on their first round. Yeah, so the Roanoke County is the only other place that I know of that's now gotten new money. The problem is that you have to really tie it to the opioid issue. And so the collective response is looking at that possibly for a tiny subset of homelessness, which would be recovery housing, is more directly tied to the opioid epidemic.
What about ARPA money? Could any of that been used for this?
Oh, yeah, the money was used
Yeah.
significantly in the last several years,
Good.
but it's pretty much gone.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for your questions. You know, if you have any other questions that pop up, please don't ever hesitate to contact us. Thank you for the attention.
Mr. Lowe's, did you have a question? I see your hand. Or you good?
Oh, no, I'm good.
All right, thank you all.
Sure, thank you.
Good report.
Moving down through our, committee reports, next will be the Roanoke River Blueway Advisory Committee report, and Mr. Edie Ray, come back up, please, and tell us about the River Blueway.
Sir, thank you, Mr. Chair. Not much to report out on this committee. We are currently in the process of finding a time to meet for our January. So,
Great, that's a great. And I guess the next three items, Mr. Holmes is gonna walk us through the collective response, the Economic Development Committee report, his legislative committee report. So, Mr. Holmes, floor is yours.
Mr. Chair, so very quickly, we don't currently have an update from the collective advisory committee, although as Mr. Bolton indicated, the VOAA grant cycle is open currently. So if your locality is looking for assistance, technical assistance on developing a grant, cooperative, multi-jurisdictional grant opportunities, please reach out to us. That's what that group is there for. Part is to help provide some assistance, and they are available to do that. A quick update from the SEDS. They met yesterday, actually in Salem. Mr. Joe Cobb from the city of Roanoke is elected the new chair of the SEDS committee, and I'm told that the Salem meeting was very well attended. We appreciate the hospitality of Salem for hosting the SEDS group. I'm trying to keep it very short as well here.
Thank you.
Legislative committee report. This body approved the commission's first legislative agenda back in September. Since then, we've had an election and some excitement at the CTB. So the legislative committee met towards the beginning of the month just to review that, the legislative priorities, and are recommending some changes in the language. So your agenda packet includes the new draft legislative priorities. The only significant changes are we have added an item in transportation about identifying funding for ID1, particularly when the current ID1 improvement program expires. The committee recommended removing the item under education, encouraging the General Assembly to provide a blanket allowance for all localities to have a referendum on a 1% sales tax. I understand there's already a bill in the General Assembly for that very thing. And anyway, so the committee recommended taking that off of our priorities. But we did add an item in there about workforce grants for CTE education. At our legislative luncheon a few weeks ago, there was a lot of discussion about the need to support CTE for technical education in our localities. So we've added two items, ID1, the CTE, and removed the item about the sales tax. So that's that draft document that you have reflects those changes. The one action we will need is for this body to approve that, and then we will take the next step in transforming that into additional collateral to reach out to our General Assembly folks. So can we do that now?
If I might point of correction on this transportation item, read the third bullet, tell me if you think that makes sense. I'm not sure that makes sense. With I-81. Third bullet right here on transportation.
Oh, from the one pager.
I think maybe we might have included one more evaluate than we needed.
What page are you on?
Excuse me?
What page? 75.
Yeah, okay, I apologize. Yeah, I can correct that. I'll correct
Thank
that.
you. I just wanted to make sure we did before.
I'll say evaluate and
Yes.
identify.
That's
Yes.
right. That's what we meant.
So that's it. That is a human user error, copy and paste from the main document. So with that correction, unless anyone else from the legislative committee wants to add anything, I think, Mr. Chair, if you want to accept the motion, we can take it back.
Before we do, I'd like to do a commercial. Okay, this is more, nobody is gonna get this and read this whole thing. So when this is sent out, we're gonna have a card. They wanna read the details, they can. The General Assembly people give so much information that we don't want to drown them, so they can put this in their pocket. When I go to Richmond, or anyone goes to Richmond, and you want to stop by and see our delegation, they should already have this, but sometimes they don't, and they might call and say, what's your position on something? I got off the elevator one day down there and Sam Rasul said, I need to talk to you. That kind of thing, because something had come up on the Catawba Hospital. But having these cars designed, and Jeremy's gonna work on that, is beneficial when we send a package, and we send this package out to them in the mail. But when you go to Richmond, they might have left this at home, they might have chucked it in the trash can, you take another one and hand it to them when you're down there, because you don't have but a few minutes when you chat with them anyway. So that's kind of what I'm gonna do. When I go down, I'm gonna have Roanoke County in one hand, and Howard's Regional Commission one in the other hand, and we're gonna leave them with both. To the point on the referendum, while it was a committee decision to remove that, when Sam Rasul and when it was a bipartisan statement that that's not the way to go about it, that told me, forget it. Now, just because there's a bill, it doesn't mean it's gonna pass, but we're gonna evaluate everything in here to see if it was successful. If it was successful, then we might do this next year. So this is kind of a pilot run, if you will. So with that said, I'll make a motion to adopt the amendments to the legislature.
Second. Any comments, questions?
Yes,
Yes,
I truly believe that we need to have a healthy community. Montgomery County prioritizes as part of their legislative agenda, the Valley-to-Valley Greenway. And there's nothing in here about trails or greenways and that I think that right now the Valley-to-Valley, that's my understanding that where it needs to go is through the tunnel. And that's not feasible, so that we need planning money for the Valley-to-Valley Trail. We were very fortunate with Delegate Austin a few years ago prioritizing monies for planning for the Craig Botetourt Trail, and that hopefully is going to be implemented, and I'd like to see it all back to Valley Trail.
Thank you. I will say the committee discussed that, but we felt it was real important to narrow it down to just 4 items for focus. So it was talked about.
That doesn't mean, Mr. Chairman, I make a comment, that doesn't mean that through the course of the General Assembly, it's like the winds and the weather, it's gonna change every day. If something comes up and we get an alert that it builds up and it's looking for support, it doesn't mean we can't support anything. And we will. I mean, Jeremy will tell you from last year, there are certain things we watch and new things that pop up that we can always take a position on. So, not to say that.
Well, I would encourage you all to watch that.
What you have to understand, Barbara, is you can't have too much in these agendas. If you do, it's going to just fall on deaf ears. So you have to pick and choose which ones. That doesn't mean we don't support Montgomery County's efforts, to say the least, because I would tell you that that is something that's important, because Roanoke County's been involved in discussions with it. So we could put everything in here that we wanted to, and it'd be so thick nobody reads it, and we wouldn't be able to, they'd have to put 6 cards in their pockets, and they'd probably say, you're out of here. You know, it's 1, 2, 3. When you stand up to testify down in Richmond, you have got to have 3 sentences, and that's it, done. Next, because they've got them coming in there just like, you know, an army testify. And so you have to pick and choose your battle you want to fight for. So if that comes up and they need support in Montgomery County, I'm sure I can push Roanoke County, as well as the commission, to send a resolution over there or a letter of support if we don't have time to meet to have the resolution. But good point. Thank you.
Healthy communities are really important.
Well, and I'll just comment, I'm also in Greenway Commission, I know that that is truly a regional and to some extent an inter-regional focus. And it's something that we talked about for a long time, and there was really no appetite or opportunity in the New River Valley. Now that the New River Valley is embracing it, we just think that it is important that we match what they're trying to do. So I don't know what it would take to add something in here. It doesn't have to be on that full card, but having it as part of the regional commission's agenda, that from our side, we want to develop that cooperative with the Greenway to join those 2 areas. That would be, that's what I think Barbara's talking about. So I don't know that we have to amend this to do that, as long as we understand, we make that part of, our understanding of what it is that, something that we do value and that we would support. So I'm not sure like I said, I don't care whether it's on your 4.3.10 bullet page. I do care if it's, that we have,
I just said.
yeah, that we know that it's there, so.
I just said.
I would just echo the comments of Chair North, or well, former Chair North. Sorry, Chair of the Legislative Committee. That, you know, I think it might be something, we did the resolution last year to support the Airport Commission in their expansion, so maybe that's something we put on the docket for January is a letter to support that.
And let's seek and understand, is it a resolution that's coming up or is it a bill? And let's see what that says, and then we can pass a letter or a resolution. Problem is, if it's January 10th, General Assembly opens up and something pops up on the 11th and 12th, we don't meet again until later in the month, so it'll have to be a letter of support. Something soft, and then we do the resolution later. Although one time last year, I think we set five alarm fire and we got everyone to say, okay. So we could do that.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like, I'm happy to reach out to Montgomery County and talk about their efforts, see what we can put together. I believe the commission has taken action very early.
Yeah, I think so.
In this discussion in the past, and our staff have served on some of the work groups with VDOT, Montgomery County, early on this planning. So we have been involved and been supportive kind of at a very ground level, but I'll be happy to see if there's an additional action we could take.
Yeah.
It would be helpful in a partnership with what Montgomery County is doing if the board would like.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Any other discussion on the motion that's on the floor? Call for a vote.
All in favor? All in favor, say
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you, that motion carries. Officer.
I have another question I want to ask Mr. Reed before this next.
Okay, we'll cover, we got some other business coming up that didn't come back to you, Mr. Martin, but I think now Mr. North would like to say a few comments on the I-81 committee update.
As representative from the commission on I-81 committee, which meets once a year by law, and then since the meeting we had back in July, couple of items. Number one, Governor Youngkin received a letter October 31st from Delegate Austin, who's chair of transportation, concerning additional funding requests for Salem and Stanton districts. In the Salem district, they're looking for $70 million shortfall for project between northbound from exit 116 to 128. And so that request was made to the Commonwealth Transportation Board to support. And because these two projects, well, this one project in Salem district is in the 6-year plan, but there's not enough money. So they're asking for the 70 million more so they can keep it in the 6-year plan. Secondly, you remember last year we went down there and advocated for southbound exit 137 to 128 be included for funding. And then of course it failed smart scale. Well, it was discussed back in July. Why wouldn't we try to get funding? Because to do it now will save $75 million. So the letter was written to the governor, included a request for $308 million that we can put into the 6-year plan, and this project won't get delayed. Now this project actually is moving up because it wasn't supposed to occur to 2033. So what they're going to do is they're going to swap money around, and they're going to probably, well, they already have advocated the CTV to take the southbound 3 lanes from Christiansburg down to 128 and from 118 to 128, like they did northbound on the truck lanes or southbound the truck lanes. They're going to postpone that off and do this because it's parallel to what they're doing northbound. And why wouldn't you use the same contractor and save 75 million? So there's moving money around. The other thing is, as a member of the 81 committee, and he's chair of not only transportation till the end of the year, but of the 81 committee, Chairman Austin wrote and asked Senator McPike to include in the JLARC study, here you go, another study, who's going to study more tolling in Northern Virginia, go ahead and add 81 on there too. So what does that mean? We'll find out more. And that has to pass a resolution in the House and the Senate and signed by the governor. So we don't, that will have to wait and see how it plays out. next year. Bottom line, folks, there is not enough money in the budgets of the federal government or the state to do everything we need done. And so 3-laning from the Bristol area north of the Winchester area on 81 is probably not gonna happen in our lifetime because it's just so expensive. $35 million a mile is just so expensive. And then you got people along the corridor saying, well, you know, we pay more tax along the corridor than you do and that. And listen, we're all in this together and, you know, it's because we gotta move the money around and share things. So it's a tough battle and transportation doesn't always get all the money it needs to. And I'm told this year, with the changes in the committees, there might not be any extra money in the general fund. So how are you gonna get the money? Well, I'm not gonna agree to any more tax. We already pay 8.8 cents a gallon now along the corridor for gasoline. And so that's enough for right now. But I will tell you this, there's a lot of money sitting in the rainy day fund. And that might be the only place they can go to if everybody agrees to go take some out, as long as you pay it back later. We'll see. Anyway, that's your 81 report, which kind of bodes well for us here in the Salem district. If they can keep the money coming.
Thank you, Mr. North. Moving on, I guess comments from commission members and with the public. I think Mr. Martin had a question for Ms. Green.
Yes, I'm on board of directors for TAP. I know one of the programs on TAP is helping the homeless and those that just been released from prison, things like it. Have you ever talked to them about getting any help with some of this?
TAP is part of the, DOC.
Oh, okay.
And Brick.
I guess you had.
Yes, yes, they're very involved.
Anyone else have any other comments today? Yes, sir, Mr. North.
I just personally want to thank on behalf of the commission. I'm overstepping your comments and you had any. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Floor is yours.
I just want to thank Billy Martin for his dutiful service, not only Transportation Planning Organization, but also this commission over the past 16 years, I think it's been. And I want to wish you the very best in the future. And Merry Christmas, holiday wishes, Happy New Year, and goodwill and peace on earth for everybody in this room and those on the air. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. North. And I understand we're still gonna have beautiful body type because Mr. Martin's coming back as a citizen representative. So
Yes, I've heard that very well.
Hear that?
Bertie told me.
Well, wait a minute, I rescind my remark. Going nowhere.
Go ahead. Mr. Marley, say a few things.
You know, as Phil said, I've been on this for 16 years. It's sort of like leaving the family, you know, you get to know the people and you find out things about them, as I said in the TPO. The more you get to know people, the more you learn from them. As you learn from them, they share their knowledge and their skills with you, and you learn more, which you can go out and help other people. And it's been a real good a journey for me, and I've had the privilege of working with 2 great executive directors, Jeremy and Wayne Strickland, and the staff over here. Have you ever thought how much work they go through to make a presentation in here? It's a lot of work that goes on in here. And the decisions that all of you make represent millions of dollars, not only in the localities, but also throughout the whole state. So what you do here is very important. And, you know, you do a good job. You guys have the brains, you have the knowledge, and you have the skills, you make good decisions, and it affects throughout the whole state. And it's been a privilege for me just to be among you smart people. I've learned a whole lot. I have. And, it's sort of bittersweet, but it's gonna be good. I don't know what I'm gonna do the first week in January. I'm dropping 15 committees, I think, so, I don't know what I'll do, but it's been great. But anyway, it's been a pleasure working with all of you and real joy. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, if I can't make a meeting, I'm gonna call you up and go to my place and just tell me what happened.
Anyone else have any comments?
One more comment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Holiday.
As everyone knows, Salem is Virginia's championship city. So I just wanted to make the announcement that the 50th anniversary of the Stag Bowl is Friday night. Invite everybody to come to Salem to see that. It's officially Salem's 102nd
NCAA championship game that the city's hosted.
Wow.
So we're very proud of that and
Yes, sir.
welcome anybody. Come join us.
It's a good football game.
Yes, it is.
Well, there went my closing comment. Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to motion to adjourn for the last time.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Officially adjourned.
Should be, had to get rule 45, it came in